Hello, friends. As soon as I start talking, of course, I get a tickle in my throat, so hold on. That's right, a tickle in my throat. All right, spring is here. Lots of blooming out there. Let's see what is going on. There we go, a little bit brighter. Well, hello, it's Tuesday and it's in the 2 o'clock hour, at least on the East Coast. And I'm Tanya with Sweet Tea Stampin' Spot. And I'm here in my studio in Chesapeake, Virginia. And I wanted to share a tip with you today to hopefully get, if you don't already have one, a tool that'll help you make your stamping a little smoother and not as blotchy sometimes. So I was going to talk a little bit about some tools you can use to do that. I know the last couple weeks I've talked about re-inkers and making sure your ink pads are re-inked and how to do that. If you haven't watched those, check those little videos out. But today I'm going to talk about your surface, your stamping surface. And because everybody has a different setup. Even in my studio here, like where I stamp during these videos, is a very hard wooden tabletop versus the tables back here that people stamp on when they're in the studio are your standard plastic tables. Now they're sturdy, they're very firm. They are 6-foot tables, so they're not like a card table, which is very flexible. But you do want to pay attention to your stamp surface, and if you can't change your surface, there are some tools you can use, especially if you're stamping with photopolymer stamps. So that's what I want to talk to you about today and share a couple tips with you. And so that's what I'm doing today. So if you're watching live, make sure you say hello. If you're watching a replay, say hi as well. If you're watching YouTube, also, you can say hi there. I don't ever really get many comments over on the YouTube channel yet, but I'm thinking about starting to do YouTube live videos as well. So make sure you're subscribing to my Sweet Tea Stampin' Spot YouTube channel so that you can get notifications when I start doing YouTube lives. I'm excited to start those here in the next month or so. But for now, I'll still keep doing Facebook Lives as well, usually on Tuesdays, and maybe I'll throw in some extras here and there, but Tuesday afternoon in the 2 o'clock hour, I'm here to share some tips with you. So, all right, let me get the phone turned down to share with you my Tuesday tip today. Give me just a second to change my phone around, and so far it's not going easily. There we go. I have to move it from one holder to the next holder. And so it takes me a second sometimes and to change a few settings before I can keep going. All right, so here we are. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. There we go. So, all right, so let me talk to you about my stamping surface here. So as I mentioned a few moments ago, I have here a very solid wood, hard surface that I can stamp on. I have, on top of that, I typically have here, and again, this is just where I usually stand and stamp, I have an old self-healing mat. Now, you can get these from multiple craft areas. A lot of times where you have fabric and sewing, you can find these at various sizes. And in craft areas, this is a Stampin' Up! One that they used to sell years ago. I've had it a very long time, and it's got grid marks on it for inches. It does have the Stampin' Up! Logo. I don't know if you can see it in the corner there. But I do use this as my base a lot of times. But sometimes when we're stamping in different spots, whether it be in different areas of our space or maybe we're stamping on the go, you may not have the option to have a very nice stamp surface. I also will say that in my studio, and when I do stamp, like at stamp camps and things, we typically also bring these little foam mats with us and then layer them with grid paper. And that helps cushion as well and evens out your surface there. But these grid papers are for sale by Stampin' Up. And that's just a scrap. Well, it's not scrap, but it's a nice clean area to work on, and then you can always flip it over to the other side, and that's centimeters, but you know, once this gets sticky or too inky, there's always two sides to it. But we also use these little foam mats. Again, you can get these a lot of places. I get these at Walmart sometimes, but craft stores as well. But they're very large. They're 17 inches by, I believe, 11. I believe it's, yeah, 11 by 17 is the foam mat. So that's one option. But there is also a nice Stampin' Up option, and that is the Pierce Mat. And it looks like this. So it's much smaller. It's basically a little over 9 inches by 6.5 inches. But these Pierce Mats are relatively inexpensive, and they're a nice thick foam. They're very firm. But these are great when you're working with photopolymer stamp sets to make sure your image transfers nicely from your inked stamp to your cardstock or paper. So this is what I wanted to highlight today. And a lot of times I will take, these are great for traveling on the go, like with your paper pumpkins, kits, or if you don't have a lot of space in your work area, these are great for almost all stamp sizes. But I will take one of these grid papers and cut it into quarters, and that gives me a nice little quarter sheet so that I don't get ink all over my Stampin' Pierce mat. Another amazing thing about these Stampin' Pierce mats is that they're only $5, which is an awesome little tool to have. And if you, like I said, the biggest benefit of these, in my opinion, are when you're working with the photopolymer stamps and your image is just not transferring the way you want it to. This helps even that out. So keep that in mind. So I'm going to go ahead and put this down. And like I said, these are only $5. Here is the item number if you would like to look them up. 126199, and they're $5 US. Also the grid paper, which it's a pack of 100 of these large grid papers. So this will last you quite a long time. I end up buying about one set of these a quarter because of all the classes I do, and camps and things. But the grid paper is number 130148, and for 100 of those, it's $13. So for under $20, you can get yourself lots of grid paper and a nice Stampin' Pierce mat to help with your stamping. So I want to give you some examples. Also, if you have the current catalog, you can find both of these in the current catalog. The Stampin' Pierce mat is on page 82, which it may or may not occur to you that's where it's at, but it is right here with this nice stamp set, and they're showing with the Sea Turtle stamp set and also the Planted Paradise stamp set, because those are both photopolymer stamp sets, and they're also the reversibles. So a lot of times you're going to flip over and you have a very solid image. So the Stampin' Pierce mat, which is information is right here, that is a great stamping surface to work on with those kinds of stamps. And then the grid paper is one of those supplies that you might overlook, but it's on this page, page 94 and 95. It's actually right here at the bottom, number 12, and then your grid paper information is right there. And so that is the grid paper there on page 95. So 82 is the Stampin' Pierce mat, and 95 is the grid paper. All right. So what I want to share with you today is actually a stamp set from the brand new catalog. This launches to everybody on May 6th. This year on May 6, 2025. Today actually is a really fun special day because demonstrators, whether you went to on stage or not, active demonstrators have the opportunity to pre-order some of the products, not everything, but some of the products from the annual catalog starting today. Now, if you're not a demonstrator and you want to get your hands on some of these products early, you can sign up as a demonstrator anytime and get right into that pre-order opportunity. So that is one of the benefits of being a demonstrator, along with the discount, is you get to order things first. And now with the annual catalog, again, we don't get to order everything, but we get a selection of products, but it does include some of the newest upcoming in colors, and I'm about to give you a sneak peek of one of them if you haven't seen it. I'm sure if you watch videos by a lot of demonstrators, you probably have. But you get to pre-order starting today, which is the 25th, Tuesday the 25th of March, all the way until May 5th, and then the catalog launches live on May 6th. So I'm going to be using a stamp set that I was fortunate enough to get as part of my on-stage swag, and everyone got this stamp set. It's called Layered Thoughts. It is a $1 Million Achiever stamp set, and again, it's featured in this new annual catalog. If you are wondering where that is, it is on page 20. I should know this already, but I don't. It is on, oh, I lost the page already. It's in the beginning of the catalog. Let me find it for you before I move on, just in case you need to look at it at some point. It is on page 34. Page 34. I knew it was towards the beginning, but it's page 34, and it's an inspired stamp set by a million sales achiever. That's what that little emblem right there means. And that is Barb Brimhall. So this was her Million Achiever stamp set. So this will be going live to everybody beginning May 6th. But one of the things that, as I was stamped today in class, I had a coffee and cards class, and we were using this stamp here, the thank stamp. We ended up using thank you, but there was some differences with people stamping, and I felt like, oh, we probably should have been using not just the mat, but maybe the Pierce mat, because this is a photopolymer stamp set, so it's the clear. It doesn't have the same cushion that our red rubber stamps has. So I'm going to give you some examples. So let's stamp this in different colors. So this is, I'm going to actually go all the way down to my flat surface, and we're going to stamp it different ways. So I'm going to stamp it in Strawberry Slush, which is a returning in color. This is the only color that's returning as an in color. There will be 4 additional new in colors coming with the new catalog. But I'm going to stamp this, and this is a brand new ink pad, so it's pretty juicy. But I'm going to just stamp it with different layers of my... So that one you can see, now the stamp is textured, so there is some texture to the stamp. But we're going to stamp it with different levels of cushion underneath. So that was just straight onto my tabletop. Now I'm going to do it onto my self-healing mat here. Let me grab my next piece of paper. Again, I'm just inking it like normal. And again, my ink pad is pretty juicy, and I'm going to stamp it on this self-healing mat. See if there's a difference there. See, I feel like that one already looks better. I know you're not going to be able to see it so great in this, but trust me, it does. And then the last thing I'm going to do is use this Stampin' Pierce Mat and stamp it there to see. And also will feel different when I stamp it that way. I'm trying to just ink them basically the same way and stamp them. So there we go. We have 3 different, you can definitely see here, it's lighter here, but this one definitely has the most even coverage, I feel like. So this is just a little tip to show you that if your surface is not forgiving and you're definitely using the photopolymer stamp sets, you might want to consider picking up or using a foam mat, and specifically the Stampin' Pierce Mat for $5. Put that in your Stampin' Stash. I will show you the card that we ended up doing with this stamp set, and I ended up incorporating multiple colors into it. I got the idea from an Australian demonstrator named Rachel Merrick. She has a blog, and her Facebook is Merrick Makings, but she is a demonstrator in Australia. And she took the stamp set and did a similar card. I changed the colors up, and I added in strawberry slush, and strawberry slush base. But Rachel Merrick, Merrick, she did this design, and I just cased it for my card for my coffee and cards today. I wanted to see, I don't know if you can tell, but it's very faint right there, and that's Memento Black in the middle there. I did not use the Pierce Mat there. I feel like if I had used the Pierce Mat, I would have had better coverage and better stamp transfer onto my cardstock. So that's all I had to share today. I hope you have a great rest of the week. Just remember that the Stampin Pierce Mat is $5. The grid paper is $13. I will add those into the video description along with an ordering link if you would like to get an order going. But I really love the Stampin Pierce Mat, and it's great especially when you might be traveling and stamping on the go, because you might not have your normal setup when you're traveling and stamping on the go. And so this gives you that option, and it fits nicely in with your crafting supplies. And then take your grid paper and cut them into quarters, and then you'll end up with 4 per sheet to give you a little bit of protection from getting ink all over this. Trust me, I have several of these, and some of them are very inky from over the years of stamping. But I hope you've enjoyed today's tip, and I look forward to sharing more with you later. All right, bye everybody.